Well, here we go, kicking off another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here to start your day, all right? And what a day it's going to be. We're going to bring you truth, evaluate as close as we can all the big stories, and there are big ones today. Let's get right to it in the foxhole of freedom. Three big things to know. Number one, grocery giant Kroger set to close dozens of its stores over the next year and a half. A huge surprise to many as the company has been turning big profits. Number two, the Supreme Court has turned in a big win for President Trump, granting the request to resume and continue deporting illegals to third countries and not the ones they came from. We'll talk about that in number three. The war is over. The 12-day war has ended, and then it hasn't. We were in the first few hours of a ceasefire that President Trump thought would become a permanent peace in the Middle East after about 24 hours, but unfortunately, in the last little while, Iran violated that ceasefire. Israel planning to return full force with a vicious counterattack on Iran. Their policy is to return fire in the extreme. Prior to this happening, and this is all just happening the last few minutes, President J.D. Vance had praised Donald Trump and the effort for a peace agreement in the Middle East. Here he is.
When I left the White House, I thought that we might be able to get it across the finish line before this broadcast, and it looks like the president has been able to do that. I mean, look, he's been working the phones constantly. Frankly, before the 12-day war started, but certainly over the past 12 days, the president's been extremely clear about America's national objective here. It is to create a world where Iran cannot build a nuclear weapon. We, of course, destroyed the nuclear program that they had, and the president told the entire team, we're going to work to make sure that they don't try to rebuild that nuclear capability in the future. And it's, look, this is a great thing. For Israel, think about this. They've accomplished an important military objective. They've helped us destroy the Iranian nuclear program. They've also destroyed the conventional missile capability of Iran that threatened the country of Israel. For the Iranians, I think this is a new opportunity to actually pursue the path of peace. As I said yesterday, what the Iranians have showed through their support of terror networks, through their now failed effort to build a nuclear weapon, is that they're just not very good at war. And I think the president really hit the reset button and said, look, let's actually produce long-term peace for the region. That's always been his goal. I actually think when we look back, we will say the 12-day war was an important reset moment for the entire region.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the reset is not complete today. Maybe it's the 13-day war. The Israeli Defense Forces say it intercepted more than 15 UAVs launched from Iran overnight. And after agreeing to Trump's proposal, they say, well, they're going to have a strong response. Here's the latest. Israel Defense Minister Israel Katz said he ordered the military to respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire agreement with high-intensity strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran. In light of Iran's blatant violation of the ceasefire declared by the President of the United States and the launching of missiles toward Israel, in accordance with the Israeli government's policy to respond forcefully to any violation, I've instructed the IDF, in coordination with the Prime Minister, to continue the intense operation striking regime targets and terror infrastructure in Tehran, he said. The announcement of peace from the president came first on his Truth Social platform last night. It read this way. Donald Trump saying that the war was over. Thank you to everybody. I'm going to get it here for you. Very important that you hear what he had to say. The ceasefire is now in effect, he said 5 hours ago. Apparently that is not true. A lot of posts on his Truth Social. I'm backing up because we got a lot to deal with here. It is just a mess is what we've got. Here's what he wrote. Congratulations to everyone. It's been fully agreed by and between Israel and Iran that there will be a complete and total ceasefire in approximately 6 hours. That ceasefire violated by Iran. Now, no telling how long they'll stay in this and no telling who launched the missiles. The command and control in the state of Iran is suspect, to say the least. Suspect. I think it's safe to say no World War III, at least not yet. And I don't think there'll be a protracted quagmire for the United States in the Middle East as so many people were predicting. No nation building, just American power. And of course, that precision military destruction of the threat of Iran having nuclear weapons, which has not changed. Nuclear weapons that the regime surely would have pointed at us. For the United States, it's still a decisive victory on the battlefield, but more importantly, on the global stage. President Trump demonstrated that he means what he says, and if you ignore his warnings, you do so at your own peril or the peril of your country. The American victory over Iran stands. And over its radical Islamic regime, it comes after 46 years of instability and unrest, undermines all the terrorist organizations. Iran might be in its death throes today. That could be what we're witnessing. But here's another takeaway. For 46 years, the money from Tehran funded Hamas, Hezbollah, the Houthis, terror attacks inside the United States, and plots to kill Americans here in the homeland too. It is hard to overstate how important the attack was on Saturday. The political ramifications are many. I mean, honestly, what do the Democrats have left? Are they going to complain that President Trump wasted too much money disarming Iran, something that every president since Jimmy Carter failed to do, most notably Barack Obama, who gave him $1.7 billion in cash, and Joe Biden, whose left-wing ideology had them placating the regime and pumping in lots of money as well? None of this is an insignificant development. War, no war, war again. But the United States dropping the midnight hammer was clear. We'll do it again. President Trump has always preached peace through strength. He just showed the world how he intends to get there. Are we there quite yet? Apparently not. On Monday, Iran reacted to getting its nuclear program obliterated by the United States Air Force by launching a pathetic response against a U.S. airbase in Qatar. 10 missiles launched, 9 were taken out, 1 hit an empty field. So, 0 damage, 0 casualties. That was the takeaway. Oh, and the Iranians told us in advance the missiles were coming. They didn't intend to hit anything, it seems. So with the 12-day war maybe close to over, President Trump thought it was over. We're not sure now. Israel is responding viciously to the breaking of the truce. All right, let's take we've got a live feed. Donald Trump is headed to NATO today. We can take that live feed of Donald Trump preparing to leave for the NATO summit with this as the backdrop. There's Air Force One, ready to go overseas to the NATO summit. We'll see what the president is able to put together on that flight. Can he stop the war yet? Maybe. As he flies off to see our NATO allies, where he will demand that 5% of their GDP is spent on defense to protect against Russia and China and apparently still Iran. We'll be right back. All right, so the 12-day war up in the air right now. The ceasefire that was there is short-lived, to say the least. It was announced last night, 8:30 last night, roughly. So here we are, and there's still time to reflect on the leadership that President Trump displayed. The sophisticated precision attack that for the first time in nearly 50 years, it may take a moment here, but it could deliver some stable peace to the Middle East over time. Let's be clear. The U.S. truly is the only nation on earth capable of delivering such a surgically precise and devastating blow to our enemies anywhere on the planet. The strikes on Iranian nuclear facilities were a stunning display of military precision, power, and technological dominance, penetrating advanced air defenses without detection or retaliation, using air, cyber, and space assets to jam radar and strike buried targets with zero civilian casualties. It showcased unmatched capability and President Trump's unwavering faith in the men and women of the U.S. military to pull it off clean, and they did. Operation Midnight Hammer wasn't just a mission, it was a global message. With stealth bombers and bunker busters, America reminded adversaries like Iran, Russia, and China that we lead where others cannot follow. The Iranian representative first claimed that the U.S. had violated international law. Seriously? You're going to stand up there and claim that while you behead dissidents, throw people you disagree with off rooftops, and fund terrorism around the globe at the expense of your own people, you're going to stand up there and say that? What's worse is that Democrats have been echoing the same talking points. They've lost their minds. It's a tale as old as time at this point. The familiar calls for impeachment, of course. Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, an embarrassment unto herself, called for Donald Trump's impeachment. And Bernie Sanders whipped up a crowd in Oklahoma with this. Listen.
Not only is this news that I've just heard, the second alarming that all of you have just heard, but it is so grossly unconstitutional. All of you know that the only entity that can take this country to war is the U.S. Congress. The president does not have the right.
Talking about both sides of your mouth, of your wacko, socialist, communist mouth. They were screaming about reckless warmongering and abuse of power, while conveniently forgetting their own track record. Going to guess they will be silent for a while now. I mean, how many times can you be so wrong and still remain loud and arrogant? These are the same folks, by the way, who had no problem and no complaint at all when Barack Obama killed 4 American citizens, with drone attacks abroad without congressional approval. They were silent when Obama dropped, what was it? Was it 22,000 bombs on 7 countries in the final months of his presidency? Something like that. Might have been more than that, actually. But 7 countries, 25,000 bombs, who can count? Not a peep from Bernie Sanders or the morons in the crowd. The same folks who funneled billions in cash to Iran under disastrous nuclear deals that led to this moment in time. But who's trying to deliver peace and peace of mind? President Trump, of course, and again. Since the Midnight Hammer mission, they've been screaming, impeach Trump for actually protecting American interests, for stopping a rogue regime dead in its tracks that wanted to kill you and me. Spare me. They're not mad about the strikes. They're mad because Trump did what they never had the guts or the balls to do. And now the war will come to an end. Maybe it's today, maybe it's tomorrow. But it will end. And Donald Trump will come out on top. So expect to hear nothing at all from the Democrats. They need something new. You see, the economy's doing great. Trillions of dollars of investment pouring in. The border is sealed like a duck's ass. And a war that was stopped in its tracks will also be top of the page. But on the left, they don't care. They would attack the man even if he turned water into wine. They're mad because he's winning. And their globalist, appeasement-loving worldview is crumbling before their eyes. And the war machine has slowed down, if only for a moment. It's slowed down. There are a couple of Democrats, though, that can see through the fog of war and political war. A couple. One of those, Democrat Senator John Fetterman of Pennsylvania, has retained some of his sanity. The guy who has suffered a massive stroke is more together than all the rest, calling the airstrike in Iran for what it actually was. Listen to this.
There's going to be a lot of people in my party that are going to disagree with the strike in Iran, and I actually support. I've been always calling for that thing. I think it was entirely appropriate. And again, there might be votes on that. So for me, that's not a war. That was a very limited military exercise, and it struck that, and then that's where we're at. So really, it really wasn't about unconstitutional or it's anything like that. It was like a very, very limited military engagement, and then it took them out, damaged them severely.
All right. Took them out, damaged them severely. We don't know the state of the war today. There was a war, then a ceasefire declared by the President of the United States, then some attacks by Iran on Israel, and Israel now planning a full-scale retaliation in the heart of Tehran. Meanwhile, we can still watch Air Force One preparing to leave for NATO. It'll be wheels up here shortly as Donald Trump is heading over to NATO for the summit of the NATO countries, where he will demand that 5% of GDP be spent on defense. No question. It's going to be an interesting couple of days. We'll keep an eye on all of it for you right here from the chair. I'll take a break and be back. Remember to follow me on X today. If you're not a follower, you need to be on X where we're live. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on Real America's Voice Television, of course. We're live globally. Thank you for being here. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, well, we're watching the live pictures of Air Force One. We're keeping up on everything going on here and trying to keep things flowing. We'll keep you up to speed on everything as it happens. We'll have you an update on the Israeli attacks that are coming on the nation of Iran here shortly. That's after Iran violated the ceasefire. After a short few hours, the ceasefire was broken, and here we are. It's not unpredictable. You do have to stay here, and we'll get this all covered for you. All right, Kroger closing at least 60 stores. 6 stores getting closed. The Cincinnati-based grocery chain made the announcement Friday. Thousands of supermarkets and pharmacies across the nation. 60 stores in 18 months. A first quarter 2025 earnings report said. The report said the company's profits exceeded our expectations. Unfortunately, today, not all of our stores are delivering the sustainable results we need to position our company for future success. This morning, we announced plans to close approximately 60 stores over 18 months. They're making tons of money. Kroger is closing stores. I can't tell you which ones yet, but I'll stay on top of it so you will know. You got to protect yourself. You got to protect yourself. Did you know 60 million Americans have parasites today? That's scary. They invade your body, wreaking havoc on your gut, energy levels, even your brain. And The mainstream medical system, well, they don't want to talk about it. They don't want you to do this one great cleanse that can change your life. The wellness company has a solution, ivermectin and mebendazole. FDA-approved parasite solutions now combined in one cleanse combo. Fill out a brief medical intake form, get your 3-month supply. Lots of parasite cleanses are all over social media, but not the gold standard. Maha's officially here, and the wellness company is making hard-to-get medications digitally accessible so you can live your best life. What do you need to do? Go to twc.health/Gruber. twc.health/Gruber. Use the promo code Gruber. You'll save $60, plus you get free shipping. Don't wait. Cleanse your body today. I did it. Feel great, except for the little sickness I've had, but these things are not related. Yeah, under the weather since Thursday, but I'm fighting back. We're getting there, folks. All right, when we come back, Major General Bob Dees will be here. 31 years, U.S. Army. After the break here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, back to it as we continue watching Air Force One sitting on the tarmac at Andrews, ready to go wheels up to NATO. So we'll keep an eye on that. Also, Iran didn't take long to violate the ceasefire announced last night by President Trump on Truth Social. Many people weighed in and commented on that, but it didn't take them long. Now Israel's preparing a vicious counterattack. Joining me now is Major General Bob Dees. He served 31 years in the U.S. Army before retiring. He was in a wide variety of command and staff positions, including commander of the U.S.-Israeli Combined Task Force for Missile Defense. He now runs, by the way, the National Center for Healthy Veterans in rural Virginia. We'll talk about that in a moment. But first, thank you for being here, General.
Good to be with you, Steve.
Greatly appreciate it. All right, so Iran's respect for the ceasefire lasted about 5 minutes. They attacked Israel with some drones, apparently some missiles. Israel preparing a full-throated response, as they do. But I think that this is the last throes of this regime. I don't see that there's much left. Their capabilities have been diminished to a point that we don't believe they have any command and control of their missiles at all. They can't send missiles long range because they have no way to control them. That's one problem. So where are we today? We thought we had a ceasefire. That was the talk last night. Now we don't. What do you think is going to happen the next 24, 48 hours? Any way to predict?
Yeah, well, I think they're still standing up on the inside, Steve. And I was surprised when they agreed to a ceasefire because I think the Iranians are going to break instead of bend. And so they're going to have to enjoy another dose of medicine from the Israelis, perhaps even from the U.S. But I agree with you; they're on their last legs, and this is we're in the final, denouement of this before we see them fail. And then also, I'm interested in seeing what the people in Iran do, the regime change, if you will, as some people refer to it.
Yeah, that's the way I refer to it. 46 years we've stood here, General, 46 years since 1979, and those, images that I will never forget. 52 Americans taken hostage for 444 days. Released the day that Ronald Reagan was sworn in as president. You know those days as well as I do. We've watched this country devolve into a place where the Houthis and Hamas and Hezbollah go to get their money so they can attack Americans and others all over the world. And there were plots inside this country as well to kill Americans here and target Donald Trump for assassination. This regime, I do think it's on its last legs this morning. I think that it's going to collapse. That's my guess. It's my gut feeling. I've got nothing to say that for sure, but I really feel that it's on its way out. Anything we can do to help them?
Yeah, well, I think we just continue to encourage the people, everything from Voice of America and other elements, to communicate directly with the people. That's one. Two, there's still a significant domestic threat. I think Israel is handling the region. They've eliminated a lot of the surrogates. But now in America, since over the last 10, 20 years, the number of Iranians that have entered our country and the number of sleeper cells that currently exist is alarming. And that's why domestically we still need to be on our front foot because we've got significant threat, not only to assassination, but also to just public disorder and violence.
Yeah, no question. You look at every day the numbers have gotten worse as to how many Iranian nationals came into this country. 7,000 miles from Tehran to El Paso, but somehow they're crossing into this country illegally. There are also 30,000 Chinese nationals. They often work together. They coordinate together. China, setting somebody up and make them be the patsy to take the fall, but make the attack first. I think there are a lot of problems facing us because of the open border policies of Joe Biden and the Democrats for 4 years. 20 million people came in. 2 million gotaways, according to Tom Homan. I mean, that's a devastating figure, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it certainly is. To move back a few years, after 9/11, I came back and I quickly saw in our intelligence, I was in Europe at the time, saw in our intelligence that we had many sleeper cells in Lackawanna, New York, Nashville, Tennessee, Dearborn, Michigan. And those sleeper cells, were there in 2001. Now let's fast forward, see what we've allowed to cross our border. And we are not in good shape. And so the Department of Homeland Security and others, the FBI, they've got their work cut out for them, not just for the next few days or weeks, but for the next few years.
Sleeper cells, 2001, a quarter of a century ago is what you're saying. We had those problems a quarter of a century ago, General.
That's exactly right. Yeah. Only imagine what it's like now. Yeah. And then you see the disarray on college campuses and some of the anti-Israel protests that are occurring now. It's yeah, we've got.
Well, I'm watching New York City. It looks like Zohran Mamdani could be the winner of the Democratic primary to be mayor of New York City. A communist Muslim mayor from Africa, apparently, who is sympathetic to Iran and all of these organizations. I mean, what a could you imagine on 9/11 or 9/12 saying, "Oh, in 20 or 25 years you'll have a Muslim communist mayor from Africa"? Really? Who
Right.
would have believed that?
Right. Yeah, at Twin Towers. Yeah, you're exactly right.
Yeah, who would have believed that?
Yeah.
It's a frightening place we stand. All right, so tell me about this this new operation, because we don't really know what's going to happen next. We'll keep an eye on it. But tell me about the National Center for Healthy Veterans that you run there in Virginia.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. I heard on one of your earlier pieces about MAHA. We're really drafting behind MAHA. We're have a movement to make America's veterans healthy again, and we subscribe to physical, mental, spiritual, emotional, relational wellness. Our bumper sticker is returning healthy veterans to America. As you know, many of our veterans are at risk. Many of our veterans need support in various ways, and so we're working that. Your listeners, Steve, can go to healthyveterans.org. For a couple of purposes. One, they can always contribute, but also these veterans that need help, these at-risk veterans with PTSD, TBI, traumatic brain injury, moral injury, they are in the woodwork of America. And so the people of Michigan, we've got people from 12 different states right now. The people in Michigan and other places can really help us by identifying these at-risk veterans, going to our website, pressing the button about how to refer a veteran, and that'll help us help others, and we need to take care of these veterans more than ever before.
I greatly appreciate the work you're doing. Major General Bob Dees, 31 years, retired from the United States Army. Sir, thank you for being here. We'll keep you on speed dial as these things continue to change, sir. Thank you very much.
Good to be with you, Steve. Take care.
Really appreciate it. All right, so a lot of uncertainty today. There was a ceasefire, and then there wasn't. That's where we are. Hillsdale College, by the way, has some great new programs. You don't want to miss these. Look, these are so well done. They talk about the story of America. That's the new deal being put out by Hillsdale College, the story of America, a remarkable series. And there are all these series about the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, where the Founding Fathers came from, all sorts of education for you for free. Free. Very well done, and multi-series, multi-episode series. You can binge watch Hillsdale College. Free online courses, Congress, how it worked, why it doesn't. That's another one that just pops into my mind. They're all taught by Hillsdale faculty. They're great. Gruber for Hillsdale.com. Check this out. You're going to like it better than Netflix. Gruber for Hillsdale.com. I'll take a break and be right back. All right, the ceasefire has collapsed after just a short period of time. But as I discussed with the last guest, with the general there, it feels to me like we're in the last throes of this regime in Tehran, chucking out some missiles, some drones, only to get pounded into submission by the Israelis, which will happen any second now. Ryan McDermott is a U.S. Army veteran, author of Downriver, a memoir of a warrior poet. He is an executive in the aerospace and defense industry and a former senior Pentagon official specializing in national security policy, finance, and government relations. He joins me now. Ryan, thank you for being here.
Steve, thanks for having me on to this morning.
You know, I'm a bit surprised, but not really. Iran did not observe the ceasefire, but then again, we don't know who's running Iran at the moment. We don't know who could have launched these missiles. Their command and control are pretty well wiped out. And what I mean by that is they can't send missiles any farther than Qatar because I don't think they have the ability to steer them. I think they've lost that ability. They have no air force. Israel dominates the skies. America came in and pounded them like I've never seen. They've got real problems. Is this the last throes of this?
I don't have the intelligence assessment. I couldn't say. You know, one thing that we can observe, you know, what we know publicly is that a lot of the military leadership was wiped out in the first sort of wave. And, you know, in terms of the chain of command, that begins to sort of erode, you know, the ability to sort of say, hey, here's the rules of engagement. And so, you know, just speculating, there may be some independent actors in Iran that are acting. So, I don't know. I don't have the assessment of where the strength of the regime. I'm sure our intelligence community has a good assessment of that. But I think right now it's probably a little bit of a wait and see if this ceasefire can kind of be brought back together.
Yeah, it's got to be a disappointment. Donald Trump about to get on Air Force One and head for the NATO summit in the Netherlands. He'll be touching down there shortly. We've been watching the live feed of Air Force One sitting there at Andrews. I don't know that it's left yet. I didn't see it take off. But the Iranians were pounded into submission here. I don't think they can last. Maybe they violate the ceasefire today or maybe tomorrow, but how much could they possibly have left, Ryan?
You know, I don't have the intelligence assessment to know. You know, the question is really the political will of the Ayatollah. And so, the question is every conflict eventually has a diplomatic sort of resolution. That's where the end game is you try to get to. If you don't have a leader to negotiate with, that's where the process, you can talk about some of the regime change that's been discussed, possibility of regime change. I think the president has made clear that is not the desired goal, and which I think is a pragmatic, smart objective to try to negotiate with the Iranian leadership to get to a ceasefire and get to a new status quo.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that because we don't know. We have not seen the retaliatory strikes from Israel quite yet, but I know they're coming. I want to ask you about a couple of other things. First of all, how about this Zoran Mamdani, socialist or communist, a Democrat from Africa who could be the next mayor of the city of New York? I mean, you go from bad to worse. Chicago. I thought Lori Lightweight was bad. Then they brought in this guy, Brandon Johnson. Boy, what a disaster he is. And what about the next? I mean, this guy is poised to win the Democrat primary today to be the mayor of New York City. Pretty striking.
Yeah, I apologize, Steve. I have not followed the New York City politics. Definitely the Iranian situation has definitely gotten a lot of my attention. I apologize for.
Oh, that's all right. I just see all these red flags as I look around, and then I see the big beautiful bill. I see that the parliamentarian is saying, "Oh, you can't do this or this or this or this," and basically gutting the Trump agenda by a Democrat-appointed judge. What do you make of that?
We'll see. I think we see what happens. Let's wait a beat and see how this plays out. I did not see that news. I apologize.
No, that's okay. I just see all these different red flags and concerns that I have. The biggest, of course, is war. What would you say to the people that keep screaming we're on the edge of World War III? I don't think that we're on the edge of World War III here. We've got problems, yes, but I feel like Donald Trump made a pretty.
I don't. I
statement.
think that's. I think there's certainly concern about the way of the world, but I don't think. I think it's sort of you start waving that out there, but it starts to sort of raise tensions even more. I've got a kid. My son is in the military, and so he just graduated. And this kind of gets to I wrote a book about sort of my journey over the past 20 years during the global war on terrorism and some of the aftermath of my service. I think that there's definitely there's a lot of anxiety that Americans have. We went through 20 years of war and continue in sort of ending those. And now we have these major sort of conflict areas. We have Ukraine, Russia. We have obviously the crisis in the Middle East. And there's what we can't forget is we've got the tensions in China, the East Asia with China-Taiwan tensions. So I think what our position in the world is to try to manage these and to maintain the balance of power.
Yeah, there's no. And China, look, China, if they get their oil squeezed because Iran is unstable, that hurts. 90% of the oil that's sold out the back door of Iran goes to China. It accounts for about 25% of Chinese oil. If they have an energy problem in China, that creates more instability and more problems with be it Taiwan or anywhere else. Go ahead.
These are definitely connected. There's definitely interconnections with Iran, Russia, China, and the geopolitics that all play. And I think that's all part of whatever negotiated sort of solution there is for the Middle East between Iran and Israel.
No question. Ryan McDermott, U.S. Army veteran, author of Downriver, memoir of a warrior poet. Ryan, always good to see you here. I appreciate your time, as always.
Thanks, Steve. I appreciate being on.
Thank you. We'll take a break and be right back. All right, Donald Trump will be on his way to the Netherlands for the NATO summit. It's happening here this week, of course. The NATO summit is happening this week, and he's about to arrive. Joint Base Andrews and Marine One. Coming in is the president. He'll then get on Air Force One for the ride over the pond for those NATO meetings. And again, his demand is going to be for the NATO folks. His demand is going to be you need to increase your spending 5% of GDP. 5% of GDP needs to be spent on defense, which means America's not footing the bill forever. Right? That's going to be the message. Not going to be footing the bill forever. Of course, conversations at NATO will also focus on what's happening in Ukraine. I'm sure there'll be conversations about the short-lived ceasefire that Iran violated and Israel is forcefully going to respond to. Those are the headlines as Donald Trump arrives at Joint Base Andrews aboard Marine One, preparing to leave on Air Force One for those negotiations. Iran, to me, looks like it's a regime in the last throes, in the throes of death. I could be proven wrong here, but that is my gut feeling. I'm going to go where my gut takes me, and that is in Tehran, there's real trouble. Israel says it's going to target points inside Tehran today in response. In response to what has happened, Tehran is going to choose targets right in the city of Tehran and take them out. When we come back in the next hour, of course, Donald Trump will be on his way to the Netherlands. He'll be on his way to those NATO summit meetings. Bill Walton will be here. We'll talk about the agenda of the big, beautiful bill. We'll talk about Iran violating the ceasefire. We'll talk about the border. We'll talk about Zohran Mamdani, a communist, an outspoken communist who wants to turn grocery stores into government-owned stores in New York City. It's all true. We'll talk about it coming up on the Steve Gruber Show. Here we go, live from Studio G, fighting for you for the foxhole of freedom every single day. We go into another brand new hour, lighting the fuse. Busy day. The Steve Gruber Show often results in extended periods of American pride, optimism, and enthusiasm about the country's future. Don't forget that we have a triggering impact. We're live in all 50 states and around the world. It's a dirty job, but I'm willing to do it for you. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, another day and another story of an illegal alien attacking law enforcement. This time, a member of Tren de Aragua violently attacked a federal officer, inflicted significant injuries. Boy, we should have more of these folks. Number two, another day of 90-plus degrees and in some places triple-digit. A heat dome has parked on the United States from the Great Lakes to the eastern seaboard. It is just hot. And number three, we're just trying to keep up with everything that's happening in the ongoing war, and it is ongoing now. We thought it was over, but it is not, as Iran broke the ceasefire shortly after it was put into place. Donald Trump yesterday saying that the ceasefire had been reached, a total and complete ceasefire after 12 days. It is not in place now. Iran broke that ceasefire. And then Israel said they would respond in kind. So we're waiting to see what that looks like. Israel has ordered strikes on targets in Tehran. A vicious strike on targets inside Iran. That's where we stand at this hour. Let me give you the latest headlines after Iran accuses Iran of violating the ceasefire with missile and drone attacks and threatening more strikes. Israel Katz is the Israeli defense minister. He said he's ordered the military to respond forcefully to Iran's violation of the ceasefire agreement with high-intensity strikes against regime targets in the heart of Tehran. In light of Iran's blatant violation of the ceasefire declared by the President of the United States and the launching of missiles toward Israel, and in accordance with the Israeli government's policy to respond forcefully to any violation, I have instructed the IDF, in coordination with the Prime Minister, to continue the intense operations striking regime targets and terror infrastructure in Tehran. This comes in continuation of the actions carried out yesterday. We were supposed to be in the first 24 hours of a ceasefire at this point. But Iran has violated that ceasefire, according to Israel. Meanwhile, Donald Trump headed for the Netherlands on Air Force One. He'll be meeting with the NATO chiefs there, demanding they spend 5% of their GDP on defense. Obviously, this will be the backdrop. This in the war in Ukraine between Russia and Ukraine. That will be the backdrop for what happens in the discussions today, no question about that. So how does this all impact us here in the United States? Well, first of all, the military mission we pulled off was basically one of a kind. We flew B-2 bombers 37 hours round trip, delivered ordnances like nobody has ever known. 30,000 pounds apiece, each B-2 carrying 2 of those. 14 in all, 12 went into Fordo, 2 more in Natanz. And in the ones in Fordo, it's remarkable, they follow the same path, put 2 in each hole. According to U.S. intelligence, there is no Iranian nuclear operation anymore. However, several kilos, maybe 400 kilos of enriched uranium is unaccounted for. We're told it may have been moved before the attacks. Where is that uranium now? And how enriched is it? 60%? 75%? 90%? A lot of uncertainty about that right now. As the world watches, some say we're already in the beginning of World War III, with the number of dead and injured in Ukraine in 1.5 million, maybe more, since that war began. Bloodier than the first 2 years of the war in Europe in World War II. Bloodier. Deadlier. The war between Russia and Ukraine than when Germany took over Poland and France. Deadlier than that. Can you imagine? We've got the ongoing war with Iran and Israel. Thought it was over. It's not. You've got other tensions. China eyeing Taiwan. When will they pounce? And what about the price of oil? Where does it all weigh in? What about the military-industrial complex? Where does it all weigh in? Speaking of the price of oil, let's go to Byte 12. I want to share this with you. Byte 12 from the price of oil. It went way up, and then it came back the other way. Listen.
We are at a lower oil price right now than we were when President Trump took office. And in the context of the last 48 hours, in the context of the last week and a half, it's almost mind-boggling that the oil price, West Texas Intermediate, would have a 6 handle on it. Meantime, you've got the Dow up 200, 300 points at one point today. What it tells you is the risk premium on oil, the risk premium that traders are assessing on Middle Eastern activities, conflict, is basically draining out as we speak.
Yeah, oil prices down now, by the way, 10% from where they were 48 hours ago. Went down about 5% yesterday, 3% today, but a little bit more like 6% yesterday and 3%, almost 10% down. West Texas Intermediate at 66.60. Brent crude, the standard, the benchmark, 69.50. So that means that oil's dropped from the high 70s to the high 60s, mid 60s, as far as West Texas Intermediate goes. So you've got that. How about the stock market today? Where are they reading the tea leaves? Well, stock market futures up 304, it says. Would take it to about could take it over 43,000 for the first time in a while. Could take it over 43,000 for the first time in a while. We'll keep an eye on that if that happens. Would take it to 43,200. All of these things happening in real time and really important. So we'll keep an eye on what Israel does in response to Iran breaking the ceasefire shortly after it started. It's a critical decision and well, we're all hanging in the balance, aren't we? Yeah, we're all hanging in the balance. By the way, if you'd like to invest in a place where the elites have and made a lot of money, but you feel like you've been blocked out cryptocurrency, you're not blocked out anymore. Block Trust IRA, bringing the crypto opportunity to real Americans like you. Crypto is fueling President Trump's America First economic miracle. Now is your chance to join the movement. The Animas AI trading platform runs 24/7, crushing old school strategies and helping patriots like you build serious wealth, just like the elites. You can do this. Named the #1 crypto tech platform by Bitcoin Magazine, Block Trust IRA offers up to $200 million in protection, and some clients have seen results as high as 250% returns. Doesn't matter if you're a teacher, a truck driver, a retiree, small business owner, it's your time. Get up to $2,500 in bonus crypto when you sign up now. SteveGruberCrypto.com. SteveGruberCrypto.com. Why not get on board and try it for yourself? That's what I suggest. Yeah, Block Trust IRA. There you have it. I'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right. Look, the parliamentarian is throwing a wrench into this into this whole big beautiful bill. The parliamentarian is throwing a wrench into all of it. It seems, yeah. Big problem for the Trump administration. Bill Walton's joining me, the host of the Bill Walton Show, formerly served in the action and landing teams for Donald J. Trump 2016 and the transition team. Bill, good to have you here.
Hey, Steve, thanks for having me back. Good talking with you.
Good to have you. Look, the parliamentarian appointed by a Democrat, don't even remember, doesn't matter, basically throwing a wrench into all of it. The border, the tax cuts, basically half the bill is gone if this stands. And I would suggest that John Thune give the international sign of disapproval and move on. But hey, maybe that's just me. Bill, what do you think?
Well, let me back up just a second. Remember what's happened with this bill. The House passed it with a 1-vote margin. They flipped it. They sent it over to the Senate, and the Senate's got to take a look at it and see how much are they don't like. But then the big picture thing you're bringing up is the parliamentarian can rule what they're allowed to consider or not consider. And the budget reconciliation is supposed to be technical, and you're not supposed to do big things. The Republicans wanted to do things that I liked a lot, like getting rid of the arcane stuff like the pension or the accountability oversight board. A lot of inside baseball here, but the parliamentarian can also say, well, you can't do anything on the climate tax credits that are in the Inflation Reduction Act, and therefore you can't do anything with this. And so I don't know, you're more current with what the parliamentarian is saying, but it's totally political.
It is totally political. That's my point.
Has nothing to do with the good of the union. It's just the Democrats control the parliamentarian, and they have forever. And the thing that frustrated us about Mitch McConnell is if the parliamentarian said jump, Mitch said how high. Now let's hope the Thune is made of sterner stuff.
Well, that's what I would say. What I'm trying to figure out, Bill, and I'm reading some different things. Who can fire the parliamentarian? I'm told the president of the Senate can do that.
Yeah.
The Senate Majority Leader has the authority to fire the parliamentarian in the United States Senate, too. The position is appointed and serves at the pleasure of the Majority Leader. So John Thune can say, you're out. He can do that right now.
Exactly.
And why would you wait?
Well, I think this is a big opportunity. Thune's been good so far. He's surprised us, and some of us thought he'd been number 2 for so long he'd lost the ability to lead. He's done a good job, really, as leader. I think this is a huge opportunity to cement his control over the Senate Republicans and really become a real leader in the party and a partner to Trump. I think it could be a big win for him. So this is his moment of truth.
Well, it sure is. And let's be honest, South Dakota, that's Trump country. It is. John Thune has been there for what, 3 terms, 4 terms? Been there a long time.
Yeah, he beat Daschle. He'd beat Daschle a long time ago by about 3 votes. Interesting. Daschle was great at bringing the bacon back to the state, and Thune beat him, and he's done a good job ever since.
He has. I hope that we have the same luck in Montana, where they had a Democrat seat forever just nearby. But what about this? Do you think that Thune has the guts to do it? I mean, that's my question, because the parliamentarian is Elizabeth McDonough. She's been there since 2012, appointed by the Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid. Maybe it's time for a new face. I mean, we talk about we don't want career politicians. Maybe it's time for Elizabeth McDonough to go. What do you think?
That's like the ghost of Christmas past, Harry Reid.
Yeah.
My God, what a. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's inside baseball. I don't know what price he'll pay by firing the parliamentarian. It's not like he's going to win over any Democrat senator votes on this thing. I mean, the Senate is totally partisan, and the 47 Democrats are never going to go for anything Thune does. So what does he have to lose? We'll find out.
Because the difference is this, Bill. It means the difference between having to get 60 votes or 51. 50 plus one, which could be the vice president. It only takes 60 votes or 51 votes to get this done, which could be, you could lose 3 Republicans. You know,
Well,
Lisa
yeah,
Murkowski now saying she can become a Democrat, so which is no surprise. I mean,
well, yeah, well, the parliamentarian basically does decide that which stuff can go through this kind of bill, and if she rules that you can't do things like the tax credits, climate tax credits, you need 60 votes, and they're never going to get 60 votes. So
never.
This is all hanging in the balance. I wish I'd made a few phone calls before we got on the air. I think.
No, it's bankruptcy. No, it's okay. It's bankruptcy is what we're staring at. If you can't pare back garbage, like, you know, Green New Deal garbage giveaways, you can't run a country. And this parliamentarian is completely political, like you said.
And we're also seeing how parochial all this stuff is. I mean, take the SALT deduction, which is state and local tax. I mean, there's not a single Republican senator that could care less about that. They're all in safe red states pretty much. But it's only in the House where you've got some people with House seats in places like New York or California that are still trying to get that thing passed. And so it's not like these people are fighting for the integrity of the Constitution. They're fighting for money for their constituents. And so that's why it's such a jump ball. You don't know who you're going to flip.
And power for themselves.
You bet.
Power for themselves. That's it, right? Yeah. Anyhow. I mean,
we're
it's
shocked.
Power and money. Some things haven't changed, Bill. It's power and money, anyhow. Bill Walton, greatly appreciate you being here.
Okay, we'll figure it out. I hope Thune does the right thing.
We'll keep you on speed dial if they do. I'm not holding my breath that they'll figure much of anything out, but I'll keep you on speed dial anyway. Bill Walton, thank you so much.
Okay, great talking with you.
All right, we'll catch a quick break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I can't replay what Donald Trump just said before he left for the NATO summit. I can't even replay it. He is, I can tell you this. He's mad as hell at Israel. He's mad as hell at Iran, but seems like he's a lot more angry at Israel, saying they're returning fire on a nothing rocket. We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard, they don't know what the F they're doing, said Trump before getting on Marine One. They don't know what the F they're doing. He is mad as hell. The ceasefire did not hold, but for a few hours. We'll see if it gets back in place. I think that Bibi Netanyahu is going to get a strong worded voicemail. Bibi might need some sort of helmet for this, is what I would suggest. He might need a helmet, because he's about to get ripped on. That's for sure. This part of the program brought to you by Great Lakes Pet Food, the best dog food there is, GreatLakesPetFood.com. It's the dog food we've been using for a long time. Great Lakes Pet Food is real pork, real turkey, real chicken, made right here in America, not junk, made in China. We don't want Chinese dog food. We want real dog food. We get it from Great Lakes Pet Food. It can be shipped right to your house. Why not support the American farmer and support American companies when you feed your dog every day? How about that? GreatLakesPetFood.com, best dog food you're ever going to buy for your dogs. I guarantee it. It's the best we've ever had. They love it. They've eaten it for years and years. All right? All right. When we come back, Sarah Parshall-Perry, Vice President and Legal Fellow at the Defending Education. American students are dumber than ever thanks to equity. Yeah, you got that right. Sarah will explain here in a moment. I'll be right back. Just watching the latest developments. Donald Trump dropping the F-bomb before getting on Marine One, saying these two countries don't know what the F they're doing when it comes to Israel and Iran, violating the ceasefire that he had thought he had brokered. Well, I don't know that I've ever heard him drop an F-bomb like that. He is not pleased. That was not the topic I was going to ask my next guest about, but I'll get her to weigh in, then we'll move on to some other things. Sarah Parshall-Perry, Vice President Legal Fellow at Defending Education. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning, Steve. Thanks for having me.
You know, the lesson today is don't irritate Trump, I think. Maybe I'm wrong, but boy, is he fired up today. Yeah.
I was going to say, I think he's a little fed up.
Yeah, I think he's had it. Look, I've watched war in the Middle East my entire life. Of course, most kids in the classroom don't have any idea where the Middle East is, probably can't find it on a map, but it's been a problem for us for years, and that really is why you came here today. Kids today, after all this money and the Department of Education and all these things and fun, where the kids are just dumber than ever, Sarah. I mean, what if Johnny's just stupid? Well, what about that?
You know, there are policies that actually take those kinds of considerations into account. For example, a 504 plan or an individualized education plan, both of which account for unique differences in learning structure, often due to disabilities. Listen, both of my sons had one of each of these plans, and they were allowed to be able to move forward with special implementation. But what did not happen was that everyone was brought down to the same level of learning that they were at. And why is that? Because that produces a crop of students who are unable to achieve in the real world once they graduate from high school. We are seeing $9 million just out of a very limited cohort. We took a view of 11 states over a period of 10 years. We found $9 million right away, simply on something called equity consulting. And that is specifically individuals who are being hired so that they can figure out how to bring down every individual student in that particular school district to make it racially equal for everyone.
Good
because
Lord.
of disparities in learning.
Let me back up here. All right, so my mother and grandmother are both teachers long term. My mother taught 30 years. My mother said this because in the 1980s and 90s, when you bring in a student that had special needs, you brought them into the regular classroom. It was called mainstreaming. That's what they called it back then, 1980s and 1990s. My mother said at the time, she taught fifth grade for 30 years, she said, if you bring these students in that have all these special needs and requirements, the entire class is going to get cheated because the majority of your time is going to be spent on one student who deserves the attention. She had no issue with that. The student deserves the attention, but the other 30 kids in the class are not going to get the attention they need. They're not going to learn what they need, whether it's math, reading, writing, doesn't matter. Boy, was she spot on, huh?
Yeah. Yeah, and what we're seeing right now is sort of this commitment to racial equity. And equity, we know, Steve, is unconstitutional. Equality is constitutional under the 14th Amendment's Equal Protection Clause, but equity levels every single outcome to the same level, and that is unconstitutional. What it does is it cheats the students who are higher performing, and it eliminates those particular hallmarks of academic rigor that helps these students go forward into college or graduate school or working and beyond. Listen, I am right in the nation's shadow right now in Arlington, Virginia. Our school districts allow students to redo assignments, turn in late work, reduce the weight given to homework and quizzes. Georgia went 3 years without assigning a single letter grade to a single student in the public education program. Portland, Oregon permits every single teacher to give a minimum 50% rating, even if a student fails an exam or fails to turn it in at all. 50% now is the baseline. No longer are we dealing with zeros. These are the kinds of outcomes that lead our nations to be floundering in public education. We are not literate in math and English, 27% fluency in both, respectively. That's unconscionable. We spent $3 trillion through the Department of Education since 1980, and we have very little to show for it.
And despite the idea of charter schools, schools of choice, those don't get as much traction as they should because they're attacked every single day by the unions that line the coffers of Democrats, and therefore the teachers union that never, by the way, when I hear them speak, they never mention students. They mention their members and benefits and how much money they're getting and everything else. I don't hear the NEA or the others, American Federation of Teachers, the AFT, they don't discuss students. They discuss themselves. That's the problem. That's the destruction of the teachers union in America. Maybe the most destructive of all unions are teachers unions. Your thoughts?
That's exactly it. And I have to tell you, in fact, a couple of years ago, Randy Weingarten led the charge to vote down a resolution at the annual Teachers Union Conference to increase standards of learning for every American school kid. This is the head of a teachers union voting down learning for every American child. It's unconscionable, and it indicates to me the teachers unions are Democratic agitprops. They are not concerned with American learning, and we have the scores to indicate exactly that.
Yeah, we have the scores. Yeah, F. Let's see, what do we got? F. Yeah, you can't correct that for extra credit. All right, so look, we can fix these things, but there are roadblocks, and you can't get anything done. You know, even trying to put through the big, beautiful bill is getting shot down by the parliamentarian. I think the Republicans really need to react and do something about that. But every step of the way, common sense is assailed by the ignorant masses, these legions of idiots. I'm sorry, sir. I'm just not going to pull punches on this. We got a bunch of drooling morons that have no idea what the hell they're doing while the country burns. It's time to stand up and be heard and do something right. I'll give you the last word.
Well, one of the things I love about the big, beautiful bill is the fact that there is a school choice provision right in it. And we know that school choice competition breeds increased academic rigor. We are going to force these teachers to perform better. We're going to force unions out, and we have to hold students back if they're not performing at grade level. No more are we interested in coddling feelings. We want better academic outcomes because our nation is suffering for it if we don't.
That's absolutely true. Sarah Parshall Perry. Greatly appreciate you being here as always, Sarah. We'll talk soon. We'll see what the parliamentarian allows and doesn't allow. I hope we get through it because our kids need it. Not the unions. Our children need the education. Sarah, thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. So I'm going to have to play this for you. I'm going to play this for you in the next hour. But I've got a sound from Zohran Mamdani. He's the guy expected to win the Democratic primary to be mayor of New York City. If he wins the primary, he's almost certain to become mayor. Well, he's a communist. Not a socialist, he's an outright communist. One of his big plans is to create government-owned grocery stores. That's right, government-owned grocery stores to bring down the cost of food. He's going to put the government in the grocery business. Bet that'll go well. He also wants to continue spending hundreds of millions of dollars, if not billions of dollars, on housing illegal aliens. Oh, and he wants $65 million in taxpayer funds on transgender treatment. Mayor Mamdani, your next mayor of New York City, a communist. Outright. No, not a secret here. He calls himself a democratic socialist. Yeah. I call him the worst thing that could possibly happen to the city of New York. Yeah. 25 years after Giuliani, you get this. I'll be right back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, now we're just keeping a monitor on Donald Trump. He is wheels up on his way to the Netherlands now. Danielle Alvarez, RNC Senior Advisor, joining me now. Danielle, nice to have you back on the program. As we both agreed, the comment to the mob of reporters there before he got on Marine One, epic. Donald Trump says neither country, Israel or Iran, know what the F they're doing. I do believe the president was awakened and irritated greatly today. Is that fair to say?
You know, that seemed pretty clear when he was gaggling, as you mentioned, on his way to Marine One, on his way to the NATO summit. What the president was able to accomplish, he drew a line in the sand, said, Iran, you will never have a nuclear weapon. You will never have a nuclear program. Our military executed one of the most incredible airstrikes we have ever seen. The president negotiated a ceasefire after the obliteration of these nuclear sites, these 3 nuclear sites. And we saw him gaggle this morning, and he said these 2 countries have been at war for so long that they have no idea what they're doing. We need peace. Yeah. And the president is dead set on it.
Yeah, he said a few other things. Anthony, do you have that for us?
Give me one moment.
He's working on. We're going to get some of that sound from the president here in just a second, Danielle. The fact of the matter is, America delivered a punch to Iran's nuclear program that was devastating. It showed the American power, and it showed the Trump doctrine, which is peace through strength. A lot of strength. So settle down or you won't have peace. And he's trying to deliver peace by showing the world. He didn't just show Iran. He showed the world. He showed Russia. He showed China. He showed North Korea. Go ahead. You want to play games? Look what our military can do. It's pretty decisive, Danielle.
I'm so glad you made that point. It's the conversation I was having at breakfast with my husband yesterday, who served in the United States Marine Corps. He said any country who is watching the United States right now is thinking, oh my goodness, I will not, because it's exactly that. This president is delivering peace through strength. He's the ultimate deal maker. I mean, this is chapter 1 in the book titled Peace Through Strength by President Donald J. Trump. It was incredible. And so I know that today he'll be working the phones because that's what he does. He gets involved. He gets elbow deep. His team will get involved and they will make sure to land this plane because it is a celebratory moment. We no longer have a nuclear Iran, which would have been devastating for that entire region and for the globe, and is an existential crisis across the world. President Trump and the brave military members who flew those B-2 bombers, nearly 40 hours of flight, hit their targets dead on. No radio communications. So I can't express how absolutely impressive that is, how thankful our nation and the world should be to those B-2 bombers, obliterating those nuclear sites. It is a huge win for the American people, a huge win for the globe. And both countries came and said, we want peace. We want peace. When that happened, we need to make sure that that continues today.
Now, I see a bit of news crossing the wire here now saying that Donald Trump has told Israel, bring your planes back. Stop what you're doing. Whatever you're doing, stop it. I don't want to be Bibi Netanyahu getting that phone call today. I'm telling you, I don't want to be the guy getting that phone call. He's going to get his ears laid back pretty severely, I think.
I think that's exactly right. I was reading a report in Axios just right before we went live on air that said that the president and the administration had called Bibi Netanyahu and said, bring those planes home. And we know that when he truths and that when he speaks it out loud, he really means it. He is speaking directly to Israel. He is speaking directly to the American people. Again, his motto, he campaigned on it. I was by his side all throughout the campaign trail, is peace through strength. He wants no new wars. He does not want a nuclear Iran. And he wants to bring peace to that region like he did in his first administration through the Abraham Accords.
All right, a few minutes ago, here's what he posted on Truth Social, Danielle. Israel is not going to attack Iran. All planes will turn around and head home while doing a friendly plane wave to Iran. Nobody will be hurt. The ceasefire is in effect. Thank you for your attention to this matter, Donald J. Trump, President of the United States. He's not asking Israel. He's telling Israel, a moment before that, the one you're talking about, Israel, do not drop those bombs. If you do, it is a major violation. Bring your pilots home now. He's not asking. He's telling them to stop screwing around, to bring peace to the region. That's what he's saying. And how remarkable is that? And just the fact that we have taken away pretty much across the board nuclear ambitions for Iran, except we don't know where about 800 pounds of that enriched uranium is. I think that was the number. A few hundred pounds anyway, Danielle. We have to run that down and figure out where that is. And all this nonsense from Russia about delivering nuclear warheads to Iran, that will never happen. That's just nonsense coming from their foreign minister. I think that this, right now, reading these, if Israel does not do as he has specifically said, I think the ramifications are serious. I'll give you the last word.
I think that you're exactly right. And the one thing that I will leave your audience with is how grateful I am that President Trump is our commander in chief and is in our White House, because no other individual could have executed what President Trump has executed thus far in making sure that Iran, again, did not develop a nuclear weapon, which was a hard line in the sand that he said from day one, and who's able to then show, again, strength to the world. As you mentioned, we know that other countries are watching saying, oh my goodness, the United States military is the best military on the face of this earth, and we will not mess with them. And that President Trump means business. We'll put America first. We'll put our safety and security first. And that's what you see this morning as he's gaggled, headed into Marine One, and telling Israel, don't you dare. Do not violate this agreement that we have made.
You got it. There you have it. Danielle Alvarez, RNC Senior Advisor, U.S., Iran, Israel. We'll see where that all heads out, where it shakes out. We'll keep you on speed dial, Danielle, because we want to make sure that we keep up on the United States, Iran, Israel, all of it, while the president flies to those NATO meetings. We'll talk again soon. Thanks. There you have it, Danielle Alvarez. I'll take a break. Be back with sports with Brock. All right. Time for sports now with our good friend Brock Palmbush.
With a look at sports, I'm Brock Palmbush. There were 9 games in Major League Baseball yesterday. American League winners were Baltimore, Seattle, and the LA Angels. National League winners were Atlanta, Washington, Cincinnati, Pittsburgh, St. Louis, and Arizona. In Seattle's 11-2 victory over Minnesota, Mariners all-star catcher Cal Raleigh hit his Major League leading 32nd home run of the season. And also former National League Rookie of the Year Corbin Carroll of the Arizona Diamondbacks was put on the injured list due to a wrist injury suffered last week when he was hit by a pitch in Toronto. Carroll was the National League Rookie of the Year 2 years ago. In NBA news, the Dallas Mavericks have agreed to a 3-year contract extension worth almost $60 million with center Daniel Gafford. He would have become an unrestricted free agent next season, and the Boston Celtics will send veteran Drew Holiday to the Portland Trail Blazers for Anthony Simmons and 2 future second-round picks. That's a look at sports. Back to you, Steve.
All right, Brock, thank you for that. All eyes remain on what's happening in Israel and Iran. Donald Trump basically ordering the planes to turn around. And I've got to get to this thing with Zohran Mamdani. I've got comments from him that you need to hear. He's the front runner to become the mayor of New York City. Yeah. Andrew Cuomo looks like he's going to come in second. Governor for 10 years comes in second in a primary? That's the way it looks right now. It looks like, if you promise people a bunch of free stuff and get all the Muslims to vote for their brother, well then, you can sink this ship. That's what we're looking at. It's exactly what we're looking at. Anyhow, so much to follow in so little time. We'll have all of that coming up. And, of course, a preview of the NATO summit. Are we with a ceasefire? I've got to wait and see if the bombs fall or don't now. Donald Trump said to Israel, return the planes. Do not drop the bombs. He didn't ask. He told them. Well, are they going to listen? That's the question. We'll have more in the next hour. Don't go anywhere. It's the Steve Gruber Show. Lighting the fuse on another big hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Here we go, diving into it. Common sense for all, my friends. Fighting for you from the foxhole of freedom I am. Steve Gruber, glad to have you here. Three big things to know this hour. Number one, the city of Detroit's reparations report delayed again, this time until October, if we'll ever see it. Number two, wiped clean. Sex offenders can come to Michigan without concern now, apparently. I'll tell you why. And number three, it's all about what's happening between Iran and Israel. President Trump, mad as hell, announced last night he had a ceasefire. And then the ceasefire seemed to break. Iran apparently sending some munitions toward Israel. And now Donald Trump has just spoken to Benjamin Netanyahu in the last hour. Apparently very direct. Bring your planes home. Do not attack Iran again. This is a ceasefire. The 12-day war is over. And it wasn't a request. He posted all over Truth Social, did Donald Trump. It's not a request. It's a demand. Will it be met? I don't know. A couple of different things from Donald Trump as he was boarding Marine One today as he headed over to get on Air Force One to head for the NATO summit, which he's on his way to now. Here's comment number one. Listen.
I don't think so, but I'm not happy that Israel's going out now. There was one rocket that I guess was fired overboard. It was after the time limit, and it missed its target. And now Israel's going out. These guys got to calm down. It's ridiculous. I didn't like plenty of things I saw yesterday. I didn't like the fact that Israel unloaded right after we made the deal. They didn't have to unload. And I didn't like the fact that the retaliation was very strong. But in all fairness, Israel unloaded a lot. And now I hear Israel just went out because they felt it was violated by one rocket that didn't land anywhere. That's not what we want, I'll tell you. And I'm telling you, I'm not happy about that, Israel, either.
Yeah, there's one thing. He's not happy with Israel at all. And then, then it got a lot more dicey. Here he is.
Yeah, I do. They violated it, but Israel violated it too.
Are you questioning if Israel is committed?
Israel, as soon as we made the deal, they came out and they dropped a load of bombs, the likes of which I've never seen before. The biggest load that we've seen. I'm not happy with Israel. You know, when I say, okay, now you have 12 hours, you don't go out in the first hour and just drop everything you have on them. So I'm not happy with them. I'm not happy with Iran either. But I'm really unhappy if Israel's going out this morning because of one rocket that didn't land, that was shot, perhaps by mistake, that didn't land. I'm not happy about that. You know what? We basically have two countries that have been fighting so long and so hard that they don't know what the they're doing. Do you understand that?
Yep. I understand that. They don't know what the F they're doing. Yeah, that's Donald Trump making it very clear how he feels. All right, so he's on his way to the NATO summit. Right? That's what's happening there. And he'll be landing there demanding that the NATO countries do as he asks as well. That's incredibly important to him, obviously. And we'll keep an eye on that. Meanwhile, I do want to get to this. I want you to hear from Zohran Mamdani. He is the guy who basically has come out of the pack to take the lead over Andrew Cuomo in polling. Now, I don't know who's going to win today. But this guy's a communist. Outright communist. But he's leading in the polls to be the next. Of course, they use ranked choice voting in New York, which he would not win without ranked choice voting, I don't believe. But in ranked choice voting, he wins and defeats Andrew Cuomo. So there you go, Democrats. Your number two guy will be your number one guy. Your number one guy is a communist. First of all, he says he will tax residents of New York to pay for illegal aliens. Really? Really? Here he is.
Steve, which bite was
13, sorry.
Going to hospitals, how can you protect them?
Here's the thing. The Donald Trump administration will use the fact that they fund 7% of our city budget as leverage over us to try and give up whichever category of New Yorkers they are pursuing in that day. Ultimately, what we need to do is tell those same institutions we will provide them that funding, and we'll get that funding by taxing the 1% and the wealthiest corporations right here in New York State.
Thank you so
Well, we'll see what happens. It's going to be 102 degrees today in New York City, by the way. 102 degrees. Who does that help? Who does that hurt? It'll set a record for June. Previous June record, 101. It's been set a number of times. 107, the hottest ever recorded in New York City, but I digress. So this Mamdani character says he'll tax residents to pay for illegal aliens, like I said, but he's an open communist. An open communist. Everything he says proves it, underscores it. And here's the one that's the most telling. He says he will take grocery stores in New York City and make them government-run. Government-run grocery stores. He's going to put the government in the grocery business to compete with Kroger and Albertsons and Whole Foods and whoever else. Really? Yeah, really, listen.
Grocery prices are out of control. The cost of eggs and milk has skyrocketed. Some stores are even using dynamic pricing, jacking up the cost over the course of a day depending on what they can get away with. It doesn't need to be this way. I'm Zahran Mamdani, and as mayor, I will create a network of city-owned grocery stores. It's like a public option for produce. We will redirect city funds from corporate supermarkets to city-owned grocery stores, whose mission is lower prices, not price gouging. These stores will operate without a profit motive or having to pay property taxes or rent, and will pass on those savings to you.
No property tax, no rent. I mean, obviously, it's all free all the time. Government-run grocery stores in New York City. What could possibly go wrong with that? Interesting. How do you feel about that? Government-run grocery stores in New York City. Now you've got it. Now you know what's happening, right? Now you're up to speed. All right. So the heat dome, by the way, bringing those triple-digit temperatures for millions. Heat alerts in 28 states. You know, we never got heat alerts when I was a kid. We were told when it was super hot, you know, hey, it's really hot. You know, that was our heat alert. Mom would say, man, it's really hot. Get outside. Mom, it's super hot. Get outside. You know, that's what we were told. Let's see. Minneapolis, 96 degrees Sunday. And all that heat is spreading east now. Like I said, 102 degrees is the prediction for today in New York City. City's low temperature, and they measure in Central Park. I guess that's their standard, Central Park. 81 degrees, the overnight low. That happens. I remember days like that. 95 and 95. As my mother called them, 95 and 95 days. 95 degrees, 95% humidity. Yeah, ugly. Let's see. Newark hit 101. Philly, 99. It's hot out there. You know, we have a word for it. Summer. Summer. Write that down. It's when things get hot and crops grow. I'll be right back. All right. Keeping an eye on everything in the Middle East, we'll do that. We'll keep an eye on NATO as well. Here at home, the Supreme Court issues a big win for Donald Trump. Rules on Trump's third country deportations, major test for the president. And a major win for the president. The Supreme Court Monday granted the Trump administration's request to stay a lower court injunction, blocking them from deporting individuals to third countries without prior notice. 6-3. That issue was a group of migrants challenging their removals to third countries like El Salvador, for example.
Dr. Masick is on hold now. Masick.
And so there you have it. All right, so that's a little update. We'll get back to that in a moment. Let's shift to Dr. Molly Masick, Director of Education Policy for the Mackinac Center for Public Policy. Michigan Democrats considering throwing $1 billion in funding increases for schools, but that spending doesn't do anything. Decreases class size, but won't fix the education system, so says Molly Masick. Doctor, nice to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me.
All right, so this is always the solution from the left. Throw money at it. We'll just throw money at it, but it doesn't get the job done. Doesn't change the dynamics, does it?
That's right. Not at all. Yep, this has been an ongoing trend, something that we can expect from them, that the idea that increasing funding will somehow improve results, but they've been following the same pattern for as long as we can remember. And if we look at the trends, with increased funding, we have either stagnant or declining school performance across the state. So it's not working.
Yeah, it doesn't work. Class size is important. So how do they think that spending money is going to change class size? I mean, class sizes of 25 are optimum, but a lot of times you get to 30 or more. It does make it more challenging for a teacher, especially if there's one teacher in a classroom in elementary or middle school. So how do you reduce class sizes? What's the real plan?
Well, in the Senate proposal, they would allow schools to use up to 30% of their at-risk funding to lower class sizes in grades from kindergarten through third grade. So that's the idea, and so that funding would have to go to recruiting and hiring new teachers, which, in and of itself is a major challenge because not just financially, it's a very expensive task to be able to hire enough teachers to, accommodate smaller class sizes. But, we are already dealing with this an alleged teacher shortage across the state. So trying to, increase those numbers.
Hold on there.
Is,
you said alleged
practical.
teacher shortage. Do we not have a teacher? Do we or do we not have a teacher shortage, Doctor?
Well, we have, if you look at the student-to-teacher ratio in Michigan, it's the average, student-to-teacher ratio. It's 14 students per teacher. So, again, that's the average number. Some classrooms have more, some have less. So
Man, if you had 14 kids in a classroom, you'd be in great shape. But go on.
Yeah, absolutely. So if that's the average, that means we do have classes that are smaller than that and some that are larger. But on average, that seems to call into question, do we really have not enough teachers serving our students, or how are they being distributed? Are there other ways that we could distribute our current faculty, our current staff members across the state to better accommodate the class size needs?
Yeah. What would your plan be? How do we improve education? I mean, obviously, throwing money at it seems to be the standard fix for Democrats that never gets the job done. So that brings me to, how do we fix it? How do you fix education? Not just in Michigan, in this country.
Yeah, obviously it's a huge challenge, and there's not one clear answer to that. But we know that simply throwing money at it's not going to cut it. But we do know that teachers are very important. So it's one thing to try to hire more teachers, but what's most important is to make sure that the teachers in the classrooms are as effective as possible, that they're using the evidence-based instructional practices that actually make a difference in student learning. So what the focus should be on is how well are our current teachers doing to improve student learning, and then implementing measures that will help them to improve, and to make sure that those teachers that we are recruiting and retaining are the ones that are of the highest quality, that are using the best practices. So through improved teacher evaluations, a better evaluation system, making sure that personnel policies are tied to teacher performance, so that instead of relying on teacher seniority, or how long they've been in a particular classroom, making sure that the teachers that we are retaining or hiring are of the best quality, regardless of how many years of experience that they have.
Yeah.
So those would be some of the main priorities we'd want to focus on. Unfortunately, the legislature just in 2023 repealed some of these really important accountability measures that were in place to help improve teacher quality and make sure that we have the best teachers in place. So it's even more challenging today because those laws were repealed.
Yeah, tougher every day, and it's never, we were talking about this earlier in the program today. When the unions come out, they never talk about the students. They talk about their rank and file and how the benefits are and how much money they get paid. They never talk about education or kids, these unions that control almost all of the education in America today. That's probably another part of the problem for another day, though. Dr. Molly Mazik, greatly appreciate you being here.
Thanks for having me.
There you have it. We haven't solved that problem yet. And throwing money at it, that's not going to solve it either, now is it? The answer is no. No, it's not going to solve it. Obviously, because if it was, we'd already be on our way there. We would already be on our way there, and clearly, we are not. All right. Still to come, we're going to talk about the sex offenders that can come to Michigan and have their record wiped clean. We'll talk about that. City of Detroit reparations, we'll talk about that. And what's happening in the Middle East, we will talk about that. All straight ahead here on the Steve Gruber Show. All right, so here's how this works. Michigan will drop thousands from the sex offender list in July and open the doors to out-of-state criminals. That's what they're going to do. Federal Judge Mark Goldsmith, a U.S. District Judge in the Eastern District of Michigan, ruled September of 2024 in Does v. Whitmer that several parts of the Michigan 2021 Sex Offender Registration Act violate constitutional protections. The plaintiffs in the case, 10 anonymous sex offenders, representing them is the ACLU of Michigan, of course. Some things argued by the plaintiffs in the lawsuit being unconstitutional involve punishing people retroactively by forcing them to follow new rules like lifetime registration, even if their crimes occurred before 2011 when the law changed. Another argument by the plaintiffs is that SORA forces people to publicly share personal details under vague and confusing rules which can chill free speech and violate the First Amendment. Last but not least, the plaintiffs argued that the law wrongly labels some individuals as sex offenders even when their crimes weren't sexual in nature, like in the case of one plaintiff convicted of kidnapping. Okay. So it opens the door to people. And if your case wasn't adjudicated in Michigan and you come here as a sex offender, apparently you'll be good to go. 30,000 registrants who will be removed. 3,000 additional offenders who committed offenses out of state will be exempt from the list unless a Michigan court specifically rules their conviction is similar to a Michigan crime. So you're off the hook. Yeah, there you have it. Wiped clean. You can find this story in detail. It's a lot more to it. MichiganNewsSource.com, my news company, MichiganNewsSource.com. You can have all the details that you want there. Hey, don't forget, Satire Saturday with Liberty Page. Every Saturday, satire. You think the Babylon Bee is good? Liberty Page is often better. Babylon Bee is good. I'm not going to argue. Hey, they're funny. So is Liberty Page on Satire Saturdays. Don't miss that this coming Saturday at SteveGruber.com. SteveGruber.com. Read Liberty Page every day for serious commentary, and on Saturdays for some less serious commentary. I'll be right back on the Steve Gruber Show. Yeah, Donald Trump on fire today from every direction, right? He says that Israel and Iran are two countries that have been fighting so long they don't know what the F they're doing. Yeah, this is after he lit up CNN and MSDNC, as he called them, right? And he went after them just for not giving credit to the B-2 pilots and so on and so forth. He's not in a good mood. I would not want to be on the receiving end of his phone call today. Benjamin Netanyahu already got a phone call from him today. I wonder how that went. He told him to turn the bombers around. Andrea Stricker, Deputy Director of the Foundation for Defense of Democracies, a non-proliferation and biodefense program, and an FTD research fellow, joins me now. Andrea, nice to have you here.
Great to be with you.
All right, so what about the strikes on Iran's nuclear program first? It was a mission like I've not seen before. A mission described in detail, 125 aircraft, remarkable precision munitions, taking out the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran. At least I think so. We don't know where some of the enriched uranium is, but for the most part, I think Iran has been pretty well crippled in their nuclear pursuits. What do you say?
Great to be with you. I would agree. The atomic weapons supply chain in Iran is very decimated. So they're very hurting. And I think they have been set back several months, if not several years, in their ability to make nuclear weapons. So I think we can all rest easy that this was a good choice by the president to get involved and deal the final blow.
So then today, last night we hear a pretty jubilant Donald Trump announcing on Truth Social that there's a ceasefire in place that'll take effect. It should be in effect now. I'm not sure where it stands at this hour because overnight it seems that Iran sent some munitions toward Israel. Israel called it a flagrant violation of the ceasefire agreement and promised to return fire, massive fire. Donald Trump then speaks with Benjamin Netanyahu sometime early this morning, says, turn those planes around. He wasn't asking. He was telling you, turn those planes around. We have a ceasefire, and we're not going to tolerate it. Probably an interesting phone call. Would like to have the printout of that and the readout of what happened there. What do you make of that? Donald Trump wasn't asking Israel to turn the planes around. He was saying, turn the planes around. He wasn't asking. He was telling. What do you make of that?
Correct. I believe the Iranians had violated the ceasefire by sending a missile toward Israel. And so Israel responded with a massive attack on their besiege and their internal security. So Iran, I think, then was upset. And so the president had to get involved and say, look, you need to turn the plane around. Very tense times. And I'm sure both sides are itching to continue the fight. But when Trump tells them not to go forward, they may have to listen.
They may have to listen. Where does that put the United States? I mean, this is not a war for the United States. This was a military operation. One and done, it looked like. I don't know that you'll need to revisit that because, honestly, to be fair, from all the images that I've seen, this was a devastating strike. You pile that on top of what Israel has done to Iran over the last 7 to 10 days. It is debilitating. It puts Iran at the weakest position. And this was true before the war, by the way. The regime in Tehran prior to the war with Israel was at its weakest position in 46 years. It certainly has not improved. Where does that leave the regime in Tehran?
It certainly leaves them hurting. They've had all of their internal repression and security forces hit by Israel's strikes and now lost all their nuclear sites, their missile sites, and a great deal of their military force. I would expect to see the regime try to rebuild. And one thing we need to keep an eye on is whether they could reconstitute their nuclear program, try to cobble together some kind of a nuclear program with what they have left, and then try to present the world with nuclear bombs. Now, I think Israel is so penetrated into Iran's establishment and their nuclear weapons activities that they would likely be able to stop that, to see it well before it actually happened.
So let me ask you this, Andrea. You've written a number of books on the topic of nuclear proliferation. You have a really good feel for what's happening. How much enriched uranium is unaccounted for today? I've been told hundreds of pounds. Do you have any feel for how much enriched uranium may have been moved prior to these attacks by Israel and especially by the United States?
So around up to 400 kilograms of the highly enriched uranium is unaccounted for. And then there's around 275 kilograms of a little bit of a lower enriched material that we're concerned about. And the 400 kilogram amount is enough to fuel around 9 to 10 nuclear weapons.
So when you say highly enriched, what percentage?
It's 60%.
or better.
No civil use for Iran to be making that level.
Right. So a civilian, just so we're clear on this, a civilian nuclear program to provide electricity, you don't need uranium enriched anywhere near that, do you?
Correct. And Iran can actually import uranium enriched to around 3.5% to 5% to run its nuclear fuel reactors. There's actually no reason it needs to be making anything at all, given the nature of that technology and that it could be used to fuel atomic weapons.
So the only reason, just to be clear, this is your area of expertise, Andrea, just so there's no question in the audience. The only reason to have uranium enriched to 60% is because you're in pursuit of nuclear weapons, correct?
That's correct. It basically puts Iran days from being able to produce 90%, which is weapons grade.
Weapons grade, 90% enriched. 10 nuclear weapons would be produced there. And they were in pursuit of missiles that would have delivery systems that could reach the United States. So it wouldn't just endanger the Middle East and Israel, it would endanger the United States. That was the reason for the strike, correct?
That's correct. Iran was working on a space launch program. Do we see any Iranian spaceships going to the moon? I don't think so. They're working on that under the guise of making long-range intercontinental ballistic missiles that could carry nuclear warheads to the U.S.
Correct. Now, Russia had made comments about giving Iran nuclear weapons. I don't believe that to be true. I believe that to be complete and utter nonsense. I say that because it's pretty obvious. Why would Russia want to have a nuclear-powered radical regime in its front yard? My guess is they would not. China wouldn't care for it either, I would think. So I don't think that Iran's going to find much help from its colleagues in Russia, China, North Korea, or anywhere else for that matter in the near term. I'll give you the last word here. I think that Iran's nuclear ambitions have been stunted, to say the least, but maybe you're right. Maybe they're not going to quit. Last word to you.
I would say we need to keep an eye out for that missing highly enriched uranium. We may see Israel violating the ceasefire, even the U.S. violating the ceasefire to take it out if necessary, and that would be a good thing in my opinion.
Can we detect that? Can we detect the uranium from satellites or other detection systems?
No, it's probably going to be something like we hear officials talking about it, and that's how we figure out where it is.
Okay. No way to detect it as far as radioactivity. That's too bad. I live in a world of science fiction come true, so I thought we could figure it out. Anyhow, Andrea Stricker, greatly appreciate you being here. Thank you for the answers.
Thanks for having me.
Really appreciate it. That should give you some insight from an expert, a real expert. She's co-authored 5 books on nuclear proliferation. She gets it. She understands what's happening in the real world. I'll take a break and be back. It's the Steve Gruber Show. All right, an update now. This is why I have the best listeners and viewers in the world. The Jeffrey sent me this. Can we detect uranium, nuclear material, from a distance? He says, actually, we can. It's pretty well known, he said. In fact, here, I've got a layout for you. The United States Air Force's nuclear sniffer refers to the WC-135R Constant Phoenix, a specialized aircraft designed to detect and analyze radioactive particles in the atmosphere, primarily to monitor nuclear explosions and ensure compliance with the Limited Nuclear Test Ban Treaty of 1963, which prohibits above-ground nuclear weapons testing. The purpose of the WC-135 is to collect air samples to detect radioactive clouds and gaseous debris identifying nuclear activity or fallout from tests, accidents, or potential dirty bombs. The modified KC-135 air stratotanker, which I've flown on, by the way, out of Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, Ohio, a number of years ago. It's equipped with an external flow device and pod to capture particles on filter paper, the whole air collection system for storing radioactive samples, the directional gamma sensor system to guide the aircraft toward radioactive plumes, advanced atmospheric research equipment for real-time analysis. There's 3 of these based at Offutt Air Force Base, Nebraska. It can detect fission fragments and isotopes to confirm nuclear events. Here's the thing, though, Jeffrey. I'm not sure that this says you could just find unused uranium. Just uranium by itself, I'm not sure. We detected the Soviet Union's first atomic test, 1949. North Korean nuclear test, 06, 16, 17. Nuclear disasters like Chernobyl and Fukushima. But I don't see that it could. I'm not sure she was wrong. It can spot the fallout. Spotted in the Middle East. Okay, here it is. Spotted in the Middle East, December 2024, over northern U.S. states, amid unconfirmed reports of Israeli strikes on Iranian nuclear sites, raising speculation about monitoring for fallout or dirty bomb risks. I wonder if, when we drop those bunker busters into Fordo, I bet we could sniff that out. It's a critical asset in the third nuclear age. We'll see where that all leads, but that's a pretty good update. He says that that's how we know that North Korea was developing nuclear weapons, because it can detect radioactive isotopes. That's how sensitive these planes are. That would not surprise me. I'm sure it's classified if it is. Look, I'm going to go back to something here. Back in 1997, I was invited to the USS Michigan. It's an Ohio-class nuclear submarine, just like the Georgia that took part in this attack by the United States. The Georgia is the one that dumped 30 Tomahawk cruise missiles on Iran while the B-2s were delivering their payloads, right? The USS Michigan at the time was a ship carrying nuclear weapons. Now all the Ohio-class boats carry non-nuclear armaments, all right? They carry cruise missiles, but non-nuclear. But when I was on the boat, it has 7 levels. And we were out at the Navy base at SeaTac at Seattle, Tacoma, right? And the boat has 7 levels. We were allowed on 3. And you would ask the captain a question, how deep can this boat go? Well, it's rated to this many meters. I don't remember the exact answers now. But how deep can it actually go? It's rated to this many meters. How fast can it go? It's rated to this top speed. How fast can it actually go? It's rated to this top speed. The point is, they don't tell you anything. They'll tell you it's rated to 100 meters and, 20 knots or whatever. When it could maybe go 1,000 meters and 50 knots. Who knows? They don't tell you. It's all classified. Are there nuclear weapons on this boat today? Can't tell you that. It's classified. What goes on in the lower decks? Can't tell you that. It's classified. We were able to see 3 decks out of 7. 3 decks out of 7. The rest were off limits. To me and Steve Kuhn, my photographer. But we were on that boat. Heck, I was on the fly bridge with the giant binoculars, just like in a Tom Cruise movie. Right there going across Puget Sound. And when you're in the boat and it dives, we were underwater by a couple of 100 meters. And back up, you never felt it move. You never felt the boat move, to me. Remarkable pieces of equipment. And by the way, I've told people this story. People, the launching device, the final, after you get your codes and you went back and forth, because back then it was a nuclear submarine. I don't know how the codes for war go now, but the actual launching button, if you will, was a plastic button or handheld controller, just like Tyco slot cars of the 1970s. That's what it was. It's a little trigger like a Tyco slot car of the 1970s. Trust me, I'm like, really? That's the way we launched nuclear war at the time. It was a slot car controller, pistol, or whatever you want to call it. It's a fact, my friends. In fact, I called yesterday to see if I can find those stories. I want to see if I can find those stories. I'd like to see if I could resurrect them from the vault. I don't know if they still exist. We're going to try to resurrect those from the vault. Steve Kuhn is on it. Yeah, my photographer's still in the business. Seeing if he can find those. He thinks there might be 2 stories. There might have been 2 that we did there. I knew there was 1. There might have been 2. Could have been 3. It was a series back for what they call sweeps, which are the ratings periods, right? Anyhow, we're trying to find me aboard the USS Michigan, circa 1997. I bet I looked like a child then. Potentially. Yeah, I got older. It's better than the alternative. At any rate, I'll have some final thoughts after this. All right, I'm going to go all the way back to November of last year, right? All the drones in New Jersey. Remember that? Every day, drones swarming around in running almost a grid pattern. Big Will just asked, hey, isn't that what the drones were looking for in New Jersey last year? Good chance. Because all the drones suddenly disappeared for one day, Thanksgiving. And then they were back the next day. Weird. Drones take the Thanksgiving holiday off. Otherwise, they're being driven around by government or private entities working for government. They're either being driven by the government or private entities working for the government. There's not any wiggle room there. Anyhow, the sensitivity of our equipment. Look, I just saw what we were able to do by flying B-2s out of Missouri, Whiteman Air Force Base, Missouri. 37 hours round trip, only 2 guys on each flight. How do you do that? Do you get some sleep somewhere along the way? One pilot gets some sleep, the other one drives. I don't know. I'd like to ask one of these guys one of these days. How did that work? Who gets to sleep? Who gets to drive? Who gets to... are they in charge of actually releasing the ordinance, or is that done remotely by some other guy that's computer aided so that it can get exactly where it needs to be? Heck, I don't know, right? I don't know. That's why I asked the questions. Anyhow, we're keeping an eye now on Israel and Iran. Yeah, we're keeping an eye on what's happening there because they apparently violated the ceasefire, but Donald Trump is demanding they respect the ceasefire and get back on track. All right. Big day. They're all big days, aren't they? Fight the good fight. Keep the faith. God bless America. I'm Steve Gruber. This is The Steve Gruber Show. And remember, only you can save America.